Well, hello there, amazing business owners. Welcome back to another episode of Business Straight Up, the podcast for photographers and creatives and business owners who want to actually make a living doing what they love. So that cliche of the starving artist can be kicked to the curb. Am I right? Can I get an amen? Today's episode is something that is near and dear to my heart as a mom who runs two businesses with two children at home who are also homeschooled right now. There are definitely challenges that come up, right? And in today's episode, I have the amazing Andrea Maxim with me, who has walked through creating her own extremely profitable practice, only to turn around and teach others how they can do it as well, even while being a mom. Now, personally, I actually struggle with this conversation a lot because it bothers me that women are asked these questions when men are not. However, I do know that so many of my students want to learn from women who have gone before them. So we are going to buckle in and talk about this today because these are important things that we need to address, whether male, female, everyone in between. There are challenges when it comes to being a parent and running a business. So let's go talk with Andrea all about it. Hey there, awesome people. I am Brooke Summer, and you are listening to Business Straight Up, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs to learn, connect, grow, and build the business and life that they dream of. Welcome, let's get going and dive right in. Welcome back, amazing business owners, creatives, entrepreneurs, anyone who wants to actually make a living doing what they love. I am so excited about today's episode because we are going to look at something specifically that so many of my students struggle with: growing their business and setting themselves apart while also being a mom. Quite frankly, this is not something that I talk about on the podcast very often, not because it's not important, but just because I think it's really unfair that that's put on women and not men. But I know that so many of my students are trying to figure this out, so we are going to dive into it today. Andrea Maxim is a naturopathic doctor and founder of the MAXIMIzed Practitioner Method, helping health and wellness practitioners create a six-figure business while also having a life outside of the office. And if you're thinking of hitting that stop button because you're not a practitioner or a healthcare professional, wait, because the amazing wisdom that she has to share is applicable for any business owner. Even if you don't have kids, chances are you have other things that are vying for your attention, whether you have other family members, maybe a mom or a grandparent or a dad, friends, responsibilities, or even a day job. We all have those things that want our attention when we want to be doing something else, right? So we are going to look at the reality of really working on your dreams, even when you have other responsibilities. Thank you so much for being here today, Andrea.
I am so excited to talk to your people.
It is something that I know we all struggle with, and it's so funny. Even my students and my friends that don't have kids are still asking these questions. How the hell do I find time to do this? I have all these other things I need to do. Adulting is hard. Like, I hear that all the time. First, I would love to know more about you. What has your journey looked like? What has brought you to where you are today?
Yeah, so I am a naturopathic doctor, and normally when you talk to someone in the healthcare industry, there's usually some sort of health event that happened that brought them to that place. And for me, it was just my natural calling.
Mhm.
But what they don't teach you in school is that you are an entrepreneur first and a naturopathic doctor second, and that people
Yes.
don't really care about the number of letters after your name or how expensive your education was. They just
Yes.
want to know that you can help them. So over the past decade, I've really been focusing more on the marketing, the messaging, as well as balancing my own personal life of having two kids under the age of 7
Oh,
and also being a wife and being a
yes.
woman as well, and figuring out what identity I want to be holding on to the most.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so thrilled to be talking with your audience today and talking with you, because there's such an antiquated way that we believe the woman role needs to look and the male role needs to look. And I am always so grateful that I have a very evolved husband on my side and that I've surrounded myself with very wonderful, evolved men in my life that I think this is going to be a really, really important conversation. And for me, the journey was always to never lose my identity as a woman first, as a business owner second, and then I consider myself like mom, wife, all of the other things. So, yeah, I'm just really looking
Yes.
forward to getting into it.
Yes. And I apologize. I feel like I have to say this every time with video. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm taking my notes.
I got you,
So
girl. Yep.
I'm totally here. I got my
Means you're
colored
listening.
pens.
Yeah.
So I love just to kind of focus on a few things that you said. It's so funny. We do have this crazy old way, antiquated is a better word, that we tend to see women's roles. And it's actually very timely that we are talking about this on the day of the US election,
Yeah.
because it feels like so much of this is in question right now. And so much of this is up in the air. And I love that you've been surrounded by amazing men in your life, because
Mhm.
I think that that's something that so many women miss out on and need to maybe look at, even if it's a guy friend, maybe, someone else, just to remind you that we're not in this alone, and that it's not
Mhm.
just women that are fighting, that other people understand it too. But another thing that, sorry, I feel like I'm just going to
You
dissect
go, girl. I'm
everything.
listening. Yep, I got you.
I love that you said it's hard to step into the business owner role as a health practitioner, because so many of my audience are creatives. We
Mhm.
go into business because we love what we do. And I'm sure that that's probably the healthcare side as well. Like,
Yeah,
you love what you do. You have a passion for helping other people. We have a passion for creating. But the bottom line is that it doesn't matter how passionate you are, how knowledgeable you are, how much of an expert you are. If you can't do the business side, no one will know about it, and you won't have anyone to help.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh,
it's tough and it's a really hard hat to take off and to put on this weird, uncomfortable, not so
yes.
nice looking hat that we have to wear all the time. And so
Yes.
there's different versions of what I think successful entrepreneurship looks like.
Hmm.
And that's also perhaps a belief, or as my mentor says, a paradigm that we need to be shattering, where it doesn't have to look the old way. Like, you
Yes.
can be successful without being a millionaire. You can be successful without having a six-figure business. But you also have to then come to terms with how you want your business to look and own that level of success. So
Yes.
that's a journey that I've been on in the past 2 years, where I'm not chasing after profits anymore. I am chasing after time freedom, because I need that to show up as a good mom, to show up as a good wife, to just be a balanced person, where I'm now spending the majority of our revenue on payroll because I'm just hiring other
Yes.
people to do the work I don't want to do. And to some people, they'd be like, oh, but you could be keeping all that money in your bank account. I'm like, yeah, but I can't die with it. Like,
Yeah.
having more dollars in my bank account doesn't make me a better person. It doesn't make my life more fulfilling.
Yes.
And it was just kind of dropping that negative relationship with money and what it meant, and the security that it once brought to my life, because that was my limiting belief, is that I needed money for security.
Hmm.
And I let that go. And we're
Yes.
still making money, and we're still like
Yes.
serving our audience, but I'm just not doing all of the work. And so
Yes.
there's so many like branches of this conversation that we can take. But the most important thing, I believe, especially for these creative, artistic beings, is if you want to stay in that creative zone, then you have to be willing to give up your perhaps financial freedom to get your time freedom back to stay in that creative zone. And that's what I really needed to do over the past 2 years, because I was feeling so bogged down by the entrepreneurial admin and what I call the clicky work. And I was just like over it, so over it.
Clicky work. I got to write that down. Love
Yeah.
it. I think that so many artists, healthcare professionals, heart-centered people in
Hmm.
general tend to work themselves into the ground because of the financials. And if you want the financials, there's nothing wrong with that either. You are the
Hmm.
creator. But if it's at the expense of something else in your life, that's where you kind of need to have that conversation, right? Of what is my priority?
Exactly. And it's
I
a
love
very
it.
scary conversation to have, because now you're
Yes.
also breaking out of it's a huge growth conversation. So you have to break down again those limiting beliefs and those connections that you have that aren't serving you, and step into a world that not too many entrepreneurs go to, because we believe that we're unicorns, and we believe that if we don't do the work, no one's going to buy from us, or if we step
We
out of
have
the
to do it.
limelight, then our business is going to fall apart.
Yes.
And unicorns don't exist for a reason, right? And yet we believe that we are them, and we're just not, you know? So we have to kind of get out of our ego. And it's always the ego that's going to have you play safe and play small and think it's all about you. And in
Yes.
reality, it's just there's people that are wanting your service. There are people that are wanting your help, and you only have so much of your energy to give.
Yep.
And if you hemorrhage your own energy, you're not going to be good for anybody in your world.
Correct. Especially yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I
Yeah.
think that's one person that we always forget about taking care of, right? We got to take care of everyone else, but we have ours
Yeah.
too. So the first emotion that came up for me when you had mentioned wanting to talk about women and moms in business was discomfort, because it really bothers me that women are constantly asked, how do you balance work and
Mm-hmm.
family? How do
Mm-hmm.
we find time to run a business and be a mom? How do we figure it all out? When men are not asked these same questions, at least not as often. While these types of questions bother me for that reason, at the same time, I know that so many moms are out there feeling like they're drowning, and they want to see women who have made it. They look to us for inspiration. What has your experience been with this? Do these questions bother you too?
Um, I am fortunate that I'm in a very female dominated environment
Mhm.
where I personally don't get asked that question, but I also don't put myself into a place where people would ask me. And
Mm.
I think, and if you can't tell by the tone of my voice, I'm a pretty like forward, blunt, like this is just how it is kind of individual. So I don't think people are really going to go there
Mhm.
necessarily with me, or if they do, I can shut it down pretty quick. But there's one very pivotal part of our marriage, my marriage to my hubby Scott,
Mhm.
that changed the trajectory of how I was going to show up as a woman on this planet.
Mhm.
And the book that I leaned to was called The Four Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin. And
Okay.
that for me gave me all of the insight that I needed to understand why I was obliging. So if you read that book, and for those that have already read it, holla, I'm a 100% an obliger, meaning I will sacrifice all of the things that I want out of life to make sure everybody else around me is happy, which I think a lot of women are like, oh my goodness, that is me. Hands up.
Yes.
I totally
Yes.
understand that. And it was at a point where we were determining whether to grow our family or not. So he was like loving the idea of having a third child, and I went into having children very indifferent. Like it wasn't something I needed. I didn't
Okay.
feel that I needed to be a mom to feel fulfilled.
Mhm.
Mind you, now that I have these girls in my life, of course
Yes.
they say like you could never imagine your life without them.
Yes.
But being an obliger, having this conversation with him about having a third child really brought up a lot of emotions for me, because he loved the idea. My mom loved the idea. And there was a part of me where I was like, well, what would the worst case scenario be? And sure, we have like all the love. We weren't struggling for space. We weren't struggling financially. Like there
Mhm.
was no real obstacles in our way,
Mhm.
except I was just like, when is it going to be about me again? Which
Mhm.
sounds very selfish, but I had
Mhm.
to be selfish in that moment. I had sacrificed now up to that point, like 3 years in the mom role. Labor is a huge traumatic experience for me. So I was even
Mhm.
debating like, well, should I do a C-section if we do go through with this, or like, but I don't want to do a C-section, but I don't want to do a vet. Like I went through all of the things. We even sought out counseling just to make sure that we were both on the same page.
Mhm.
But at the end of that journey, I realized like enough is enough. I am done
Yeah.
obliging people. I am done sacrificing my body and my dreams and goals to make everybody else happy for me, to the point where I was like, if this is really important to you, I will sign the divorce papers today. And when I was so adamant about where my end point was, like I forget what the actual word is, your hard limit, when I realized that I can have a hard limit and I can own it to the point where I'm willing to sacrifice my marriage, that changed everything for me. And I think there's moments in our lives as women where we are going to feel that hard limit and not listen to it and just continue to, for lack of a better word, suffer, or just be an eternal optimist and hope that things are going to get better. Where what's going to show up, and this is what I knew was going to happen, is the amount of resentment that I would have started to create towards my husband was going to break us up anyway. So it was just sort of like, you know what? I'm going to put me first. And that conversation that we had, where I finally put my foot down, really helped me own where I want to be, what identity I want to hold, and what I won't tolerate anymore. From there, it just became about having open communication, because you also can't be holding on to all of these emotions that you may be feeling and expect people to know what it is that you're feeling. And it is an uncomfortable conversation to have. But the best part is the more you talk in a very productive way. So when I want to bring something up that's bothering me, because still the roles will happen. I start doing all the cleaning, picking up the kids from school, I'm working, and my husband does seasonal work. So there's going to be months where he's not and months where he is. And for a while there, I tolerated it. And again, even coming into the winter season, I was like, babe, I'm not, I like can tolerate things to a point, but you have to
Mm-hmm.
understand that I'm not a maid. I am not like a chauffeur. I am not a
Yes.
cook. Those are not the things that I do. You are a fully capable adult human being, and these are your children, and we're partners. It's not going to
Yes.
be the male female role. And I just
Yes.
constantly have to have that open conversation with him. But when we approach it, I always say, babe, I have something that's really bothering me that I'd like to talk to you about it. You tell me when you are ready to be open for this conversation, and then we'll chat. Maybe an hour
Interesting.
goes by,
Yeah.
maybe a day goes by. I don't push it, but I will never catch him off guard
Mm-hmm.
with something as deep as that. And when we do then have that conversation, there's no yelling,
Mm-hmm.
there's nothing but listening. And as I said, he's an incredibly evolved, wonderful man, so I'm so fortunate for that. But we also know how to set the stage so we can have these difficult
Mm-hmm.
conversations and feel heard and see the change start to happen. um, and all of this is just, again, part of that personal growth that
Mm-hmm.
that you have to be comfortable with.
Yes. And why do we glorify this sacrifice for women and not for men? Like all the Mother's Day cards, it's so funny. I never even thought about this until Shonda Rhimes said it on the Oprah,
Mm-hmm,
like Super
hmm.
Soul. She said, why do all of the Mother's Day cards say thank you for sacrificing everything for me? And the Father's Day ones don't. And I'm like, wait, no, that can't. Yeah, that is right. That is
Wow.
crazy to me that
Hmm.
when women want to stand up and say, guess what?
Hmm.
I get to matter as an individual as well, not just as a wife, not just as a mother, that's seen as selfish because it's not selfish. We're all individuals. We all have beautiful gifts and things to give to the world. And for someone to embrace that is not selfish, regardless
Hmm.
of gender or age or background.
And I use that word when I was
Yes.
talking, that I felt that I was sacrificing. And so I can totally understand.
Yes.
And here's the other thing, though, too. Women are superhuman.
We're
And I love what
badass.
Reese Witherspoon said, is she said, if you ever watch a movie where a woman asks the man, well, what do we do now? She's like, that is written by a man. It is directed by a man. Like, it is not what women do. And it is so true. Like, even in my own life, I'm like, when have I ever asked Scott, like, what do we do now? Like, I'm lost. Can you help me or save me? Or like, I'm the damsel in distress over here.
Oh.
It never gets said by women, because we just like effing figure it out. We just
Yes.
do. No one ever asks us. We just get it done. We just have life organized. We can take care and we can balance and we can
Yes.
multitask. But it also comes with, again, and I'm going to use it, the sacrifice of our own well-being and our
Yes.
own energy. And as a healthcare practitioner, do you wonder why 90 to 95% of my practice is filled with burnt out moms? There's a
Mm,
reason. There's a reason
yeah.
why. Um, and this is why I think this is such a powerful message.
Yes. What if you didn't have to worry about writing emails to your list for the next 6 months and maybe even a year? Yes, it's true. It's finally here. My students have been asking me for this for years, and I have heard you, and these templates are finally available. Engaging Emails Done is a quick workshop and template bundle to help you harness the power of email marketing to grow your business. You can set it and forget it and actually book more clients. If you're like, Brooke, I am so in. Where do I grab these? Head on over to businessstraightedup.com/emails done to grab this special limited bundle. If you want to hear a little more, I feel you. I like details too. These templates are designed to be done for you to set up several months of emails in just an hour. Plus, I've recorded several how-to videos to walk you through the technical steps for several different email service providers if you're not sure how to customize and schedule them. Engaging Emails Done has not only a quickie email marketing 101 how-to if you're starting from scratch, but it includes a minimum of 12 email templates that you can schedule ahead of time to take something off of that never-ending to-do list so you can focus on what you love most. Side note, I did say a minimum of 12 because I keep thinking of things to add, so you might even get more than 12. These are brand new. I've never offered something like this before. So grab your email templates plus email marketing 101 plus tech tutorials before the price goes up. Grab these templates, tutorials, and help all at businessstraightedup.com/emails done. Again, that's businessstraightedup.com/emails done. Do you believe in work-life balance truly, or do you think it's a myth?
No, no.
I don't either. And when I say that, people are stunned. I said, well, when you have your attention one place, it's never on the other. You can't
Hmm.
split that. It's just not reality. So
Yeah.
is there something like some crazy awesome tip that you have that helps you kind of get as close to balance as you can?
Yeah. I guilt-free balance.
Awesome.
When I'm working on
How,
my business, I'm working on my business and everyone
yes,
knows it and I own it. And when my kids are like, "Oh, mom, will you play with me?" I'm like, "No, I'm working." And I'm
yes,
so fine with that because then when I
yes,
can switch into mom mode, I am present with them.
fully present.
Hmm. Yep.
Yes.
So
And
for me, it's
that's,
always just been owning my decision. If my decision is to do
yes.
this, then I own it and that's what it is. And there's no guilt.
Yes, that was a really difficult discussion with my husband this year with the pandemic. And
Hmm.
he's like, well, I just don't understand why this is such a problem. And I said, I don't have the 8 hours a day with no one pulling on me to get something else done.
Yes.
And he didn't understand that. And once I kind of gave him, like, you have this separate compartment that you
Hmm.
can go to that I don't have, he was like, oh, okay. Well, yeah, that makes more sense. It's so hard when our attention is divided, and making that decision, making that choice is so powerful. Something I still struggle with. I love that you have mastered, conquered that.
Well, I also reflect when I say that I'm just not like I'm not an innate mom. Like it's not in my genes to be like the nurturing, homeschooling, take like play with my kids mom. It just isn't me. So I also had to fully own that too, right? I had to let that go of what I thought a mom should do or what they should be. Like, guys, my kids are on their tablets for an insane amount of time some days. And I also have to just be like, well, this is what I have to do because
Mhm,
my business is ultimately going to retire my husband. It's going to
mhm,
provide for my family so we can have family outings and never worry about having to scrimp and save and do all those
mhm.
things. And for me to get there, I need to put in the work right now. But what I
Yes.
won't do is I won't lie to my kids. And remember,
Mhm,
my girls are 6 and 3 and they get it. Like when mom's on her laptop, I'm not going to be like, so for a great example, hey, mom, do you want to read a book with me? Not right now because I'm on my laptop, but when I'm done being on my laptop, absolutely. I don't
Yes.
do that whole thing of like, oh, sure, 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 give me 5 minutes, or oh,
Yeah.
sure, 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 yeah, I will. And then I don't, because that's
Yeah.
when the trust gets lost with you and your
Yes.
children. So I also try to be as insanely honest with them about my intentions so
Hmm.
that they don't ever feel let down or
Hmm.
forgotten about. And I feel like we
Yes.
also don't own our words either, because we
Hmm.
also don't want to sound like a bad mom who doesn't want to play with their kids.
Right?
And my girls are fine. Like, our relationship is great.
Yes.
But I also have to, be honest with them and treat them with respect. And at 3 and 6, they get it. Like, they are not,
They
even at one
do.
years old, I was
Yes.
like, they understand everything that's going on right now. I
Yes.
am not going to be like manipulated by this little human,
Right?
like they get it.
Yes. I love you said something about what we should do, what a good mom
Mhm.
should do. One of my coaches will always say, Brooke, you're shitting all over yourself.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
get caught in these like ideas of, well, we should do this or we should do. And really, all of
Mhm.
those shoulds come from external sources. They're all stories that we have learned in our past that are unnecessary and usually pretty damaging.
I would agree. And that's again that conversation about limiting beliefs and
Yes.
breaking paradigms. And a paradigm is, again, your perception of what something should look like, and just shatter it. Like,
Yes.
while the world is absolutely topsy turvy crazy, there was a huge amount of awakening that
Mhm.
happened when the shutdown happened. And the people that were willing to look and analyze and reanalyze how they were living their lives up to that point got the message. And
Yes.
those people that didn't, that hid and became anxious or angry or fearful or blamed COVID for all of the things that happened, those people didn't get the message. And
Mhm.
for me, the first thing that I noticed was, oh, I can set up my business virtually because I own two brick and mortars. So I was like, oh, sweet. I can go virtual. I can be
Yes.
home. I can set up a new dynamic of how I'm running my business. Oh, cool. Yeah, I can double down on Facebook ads or
Mhm.
going on live or whatever the case may be. Oh, cool. Like, I can use online tools to help me grow my business and keep me stationary. So I'm not spending time on gas. So I'm not, spending all of these X, Y, or Z expenses. And we remained centered as a company. Like, we were
Mhm.
grounded. We didn't feed into the media. We were just there to constantly serve. And
Mhm.
and with a potential second wave coming, like,
It's
you
here,
you
girl.
gotta learn what that like huge right hook was. And the
Yes.
businesses that are thriving are the ones that are like, I have a solution, I am
Mhm.
here, I am steadfast, I pivoted, I merged, I did what I needed to do to still be there for you, and I will constantly be a source of grounding for you.
Yes. And
So yeah, go
the
ahead.
people, the creativity that has come out of this is
Yeah.
crazy. I love seeing wineries that are now doing meal like cooking classes online.
Sure.
So you pick up a box that has your wine and all your materials. There are so many amazing things that are coming
Mhm.
out of this. And yes, there are businesses that are like primarily service based that are kind of stuck, but you know what? We figure it out. We make it work.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. There's always a way for you to grow your business, but you have to be creative. You have to go into that uncomfort.
Yes.
And coming back to our topic at hand, you have to ask for that space from your family. Say,
Yes.
like, oh my gosh, we got into a huge fight that first week when everything shut down. Like, brick and mortar shut down, could not see
Mm.
patients anymore. Identity rocked, right?
Yes. Oh
And
my gosh.
I was just like barking orders at him because I was just like, you have to do all these things. You have to pick up the kids. And he called me out on it. I was like, look, like, my business
Mhm.
needs, like, it is like bleeding. It is hemorrhaging. And you have to give me the space to put the bandages on because I've never been through this before.
Yeah.
So, your needs, your worries, your concerns can wait. Like,
Yes.
look, like, we're not even going
It's
to go there.
triage.
You can
Yeah.
entertain this conversation
Yeah.
later, but you just need to, like, get a grip
Yeah.
because it's not about you right now.
Yes. I need
Yeah.
your help. But then having a partner that is okay, it's so funny. I was just telling my son last night, I did a podcast episode on business lessons from Frozen 2, which I know sounds ridiculous,
I
but
love Frozen
I
too.
did too. But one of the things that I love is Kristoff comes and picks up Anna, and he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He doesn't know the backstory. He doesn't know. He goes, I'm here. What do you need?
Hmm.
And to surround yourself with people that don't need every detail, they just are there for you.
Hmm.
And when you're in those triage modes, like we all found with the pandemic, because I was
Yeah.
service based primarily as well, I was shut down. I couldn't work with clients at all.
Yeah.
Then you have those people in your life who will just pick you up for a second and say, I'm here. What do you need?
Hmm.
And that's so valuable.
And you have to ask for it. You
Yes.
have to ask for it too. So you also, like, as much as I love him, he's not good at like picking up cues. Like he's a boy, like, he just doesn't get it.
No
Nor is he
hints?
telepathic. So I have to like give him that. And I find that if I don't ask, then I can't expect to receive. So sometimes you just have to be like, look, I'm drowning. Could you please just make dinner? Or could you please just order? Could you please just do this, that, or the other? That would be amazing. And they will always step up to the plate because it makes them feel like a hero a little
That's
bit,
right.
right? Like they're
There's
taking
the
care of their
damsel.
woman, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the labels that people use. Boss babe, mompreneur, lady
Hmm.
boss, and there's more, like there's hundreds of them. Personally, I hate them because I'm not a lady boss, I'm the boss.
Hmm.
And my cups even say so. I have cups that say lady boss crossed out, girl boss crossed out. But I do know that there are so many women that identify with these. So I use the hashtags on social media trying to find women that I can speak to. Do you identify with any of these labels?
No. I come from a very equalist stance where, you know, I don't know why there has to be gender labeled terms to
Right?
emphasize a particular position that you have in your industry. Again, as an online entrepreneur, I kind of put my own stake in the ground and create my own niche. So I don't really feel like I'm competing against anybody else. While I know that it is very much like a bromance online and they all have their like, their boy huddles
Hmm.
and they support each other. That's cool. But look, like there are so many strong women leaders that are coming out and
Yes.
being like, I don't give an F what's going on here. This is
Hmm.
my message. This is what I want to do. This is my, for lack of a better word, stake in the ground. So why do we need to qualify ourselves by our gender? Is
Yes.
my thought. Like I
Yes.
don't use any of those terms at all. Even mompreneur really bothers me because again, I don't identify as a
Hmm.
mom first and an entrepreneur second. I'm an entrepreneur
Yes.
first. I just happen to make babies, I just happen to have
Yes.
children. And that's
Yes.
just my personal story, like my personal life.
I saw a quote once that said, you were a person before you had your children, and that person still
Mhm.
matters.
Yeah. And I was also a person before I met my husband, and I was a
Yes.
person before I started my business, even.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So it just, again, it's just drawing that line in the sand as to what you want to stand for, what you
Mhm.
don't want to stand for. And all of it is okay. Like the
Yes.
fact that I don't like Lady Boss or Boss CEO or Boss Babe doesn't mean that you can't. It's
Mhm.
just that I just don't. And
Yes.
and neither do you, Brooke, and that's okay.
Yes. And I love what you said earlier that you don't feel like you are that nurturing, super nurture mom. I did an episode on homeschooling, and I actually am that mom. I love to play with my kids, but I am not the homeschool mom. I am not the mom that was pregnant going, I'm going to teach you all the amazing things in
Yeah.
homeschool. So, not me. And it's so important to know yourself and know what
Mhm.
you're okay with and to accept that instead of trying to fight it and fit yourself into something else.
It makes life way easier if we stop
Yes.
trying to fit into a story that doesn't actually, it wasn't written for us.
Right?
It just makes it's just, again, everyone wants to be their authentic self. Well, be
Yes.
it. Like just own your faults,
Hmm.
own your limitations, own your
Hmm.
weaknesses, and frig, like own your strengths too, right? Like
Yes.
my girls still know if they need to get something done, they ask mom. If they want to go shopping, if they want to go do something like go for a trip, they
Hmm.
ask mom. Like that, if they
Yep.
want to snuggle at night, like I'm always available. It's just
Yes.
the other stuff, but it's that other stuff that I don't think in the grand scheme of things will really matter, I
Yeah.
think, when it comes to raising children, so long as they feel safe and nurtured and loved unconditionally.
Yes.
You know, that's and as a entrepreneur who is a female,
Hmm.
raising women, uh, I would hope that they would reflect back and remember how hard mom worked and look at what she
Yes.
created from nothing.
Yes, actually,
And
that
that's the legacy that I want to leave.
absolutely. And that was actually my next question is I
Mhm.
know you have daughters at home, and I was a mom to a son for 10 years before my daughter was born. So my perspective has changed so much since having my daughter because I know that I don't want to teach her the same things that we have seen for decades
Mhm.
as women. Because
Mhm.
let's be real, I mean, this didn't just happen in the last 20 years, this has
Right.
been centuries in the making. So, what are some of the things that you want your daughters to see the most? Some of the values that you want them to see and remember? And you had talked about in
Mhm.
your legacy.
I When I want them to reflect back on what their childhood was like, I just want them to remember that their mom was happy and that their mom laughed.
And
And
that they
I
have
was
the right to be that too,
Yeah.
because
And
that's what they saw.
I wasn't I wasn't laughing for a really long time. And it's funny that that's the one thing that I reflect on now as you ask that question, because we would watch a show or a comedy and I would be so like ingrained in my laptop or working on my business or trying to keep my hustle up that I never laughed out loud. And since
Mhm.
starting to relinquish a lot of these negative beliefs, these limiting beliefs, these ideals that don't serve me, I'm like laughing out loud and I'm singing out loud. And all of that reverberates into my family to be like, you know what? Mom's good. I'm good. Mom's happy. I'm happy. Like happy wife, happy life.
Yes.
Totally true.
Yes.
And that they'll remember that I was home. Like I was there
Yes.
for them in the mornings. I was there for them when they came home. Like I was around. And that
And
those two things matter the most.
And even if you are working, just being there is
Mhm.
such a big deal. I know I was raised by a single mom who had to work two jobs.
Yeah.
So if I was sick at school, I stayed at school.
Mhm.
Like if she could pick me up, she would, but she didn't have that freedom that we have that because we've created our business to fit our
Yeah.
life instead of the other way around.
Yes, preach.
That is huge. I know one thing that for me can really trip me up and keep me from moving towards my biggest goals is fear, of
Mhm.
course. And under the same umbrella is perfectionism is a big one. I'm a recovering perfectionist. Elizabeth Gilbert says perfectionism is just fear in fancy shoes, and
Mhm.
it's very true. How did you get beyond the fear to make these big changes in your business in your life and to actually make these choices to stand up and say, I am a person who matters too before I was married, before I had
Mhm.
children, and we can all coexist happily.
For the fear question and the perfectionist question, I just became incredibly coachable.
Hmm.
And I would sign up with mentors or do different coaching programs. And whatever they told me to do in my brain, I said, well, they're telling me to do this for a reason. People
Hmm.
are having success with their methodology for a reason. So instead of being a yes, butter, I was just like an okay. Like
Yes.
you're telling me to jump off this cliff and the net will appear. Cool. Like I'll do
Yes.
it. It was scary AF and it was anxiety provoking AF. And I lost many a night of sleep. Like it wasn't like seamless,
Yes.
but because I remained coachable and trusting of the process, it allowed the growth to happen.
Yes.
And I didn't limit myself based on what I thought was safe or what I thought I needed to do, or as I said, the yes butters, they don't grow because they're
Yeah.
always like, it's yeah, but what if blah 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 blah. Well,
Yes.
then never mind. Like moving on to
Yes.
someone who's just like, yes, hand raised, tell me what to do, I will follow you, because they've paved the path.
Yeah.
Like they paved it in fire and we just get to walk over the warm coals. That's why
Yes.
we seek out coaches and mentors. So
Yes.
that was the big thing that I had to, again, drop the ego, get out of my head, stop thinking about all the things that could happen and just be like, well, what if it was amazing?
What
Who's
if,
to say that? What
right?
if, that whole quote of, Something about flying. What if you do fly? You just
Yes.
don't know until you take the leap.
And the yeah, but people, it's so funny when I work with students, I will tell them stop arguing for your limitations and
Hmm.
consider the possibility. What if it actually does work?
Yeah,
What's it going to hurt you to try, right? I mean, if you try and it doesn't work, okay, then you move on. You make a decision, you move on.
that's really hard for a lot of
It
people. It's
is.
really hard for a lot of people
It
to
is.
go into that shadowy, unknown, dark place that they've never been before.
Oh,
It's hard.
it is, and it's scary, and it's something that our brains, have worked for thousands of years to keep us safe.
Yep.
And so if they see something that's scary, oh no, it's going to be terrible. People are going to make fun of you. People,
Hmm.
it's going to fail. Like you hear all
Yeah,
these things in your head.
absolutely. And the fear of failure, I think, is probably what's driving all of that. And again, it
Yes.
comes back to like, who do you have in your corner that's supporting you? And if everyone is working against you, that's going to like play mind games with your
Yes.
ability to move forward for sure.
And sometimes that working against you is even on a smaller level. Like I have some students who say, oh no, he's supportive of my dreams. But then you hear some of these comments that are made, or my mom is really supportive,
Hmm.
but she said I shouldn't really be doing that. I'm like, is she really supportive?
Hmm.
Are we
Yeah.
really surrounding ourselves with the people who will push us to be the best person that we can be?
Yeah. And that's also on you, right? So again,
Yes.
this is all it sucks. But if you want something in your life, you have to either own it or get rid of it, right? If there's someone who isn't supporting you, you just distance until
Yeah.
you get that strength that you need to filter.
Yes.
And I think, and this is just more of like a pop culture media or reference, but I've like loved RuPaul's Drag Race,
Oh, I love
just
him.
with like a lot of the, oh, you don't watch it?
I don't watch the show, but I've read his
Oh.
book and I absolutely
Mm.
love him as a person.
Hmm.
So I'm not a huge fan of reality TV, but I do
Fair
love him.
enough. It was like more of a COVID necessity because I had nothing else to
Mhm.
watch. But
Yes.
the ultimate message is like these people are standing up for the lifestyle that they want. And you hear the stories of just the insane amount of backlash and
Mm.
family members disowning them because not only are these men gay, but they're also like drag what's the
Dressing
word?
and
Like
drag.
dress
Yeah.
and drag. Yeah. So
Yeah.
like they even said that on the show, like they are the extreme version of gay, not only just a gay male, but now they're also
Oh,
a drag
that's
gay
true.
male.
Yeah.
So just really listening to other people's journeys that are way harder and way worse than ours was always just very inspiring to me. And it's of course done in a very lighthearted way, but
Yes.
I just kind of I just always say, we have one life. This is how I want to live it. If you don't want to be alongside me, then peace. If you want to be with
Yes.
me, awesome. I'm willing to lose anybody who isn't willing to like
Yeah.
be on my side.
Yes. One of my favorite quotes from RuPaul is, "We're all born naked, the rest is just drag."
Right. Yeah.
And we're constantly putting on these like different identities
Hmm.
of, oh, am I a stay-at-home mom now because of this pandemic? No, I don't want
Hmm.
that. And you have to pick and choose what works for you and what doesn't, and what fits and what feels good.
Hmm. Exactly. And own it.
Definitely. That's right. And be
Yeah.
okay with that. For sure. Oh my gosh. I am so, so appreciative of your time and your wisdom, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here today. I know figuring out how to build a business to fit into your life, like I said, instead of the other way around, like
Hmm.
trying to fit your life into your business, is something that so many of us have to learn the hard way. And then we figure it out. And I know that my listeners will love to hear what you have to say. Where can people learn more about you, what you do, connect with you, and learn more?
Instagram at Andrea Maxim ND is the best place. And then you can just start a DM conversation with me and we can go from there.
Perfect. And you said healthcare practitioner. So
Mhm.
I know that there's so many different options, and I know that you're a naturopathic. So do you remotely work with women who are burned out and figure out what they can do to help with their health? Or is it something that you do more in person, like you have to examine someone?
Well, we do both, but
Mhm.
legally I can only do it in the province of Ontario where I live,
Oh,
and that's where
okay.
my license is.
Yes.
However, in the the fluster of the pandemic, we did create an online course called the Maximized Health Method, which walks through the exact strategy we have our patients go through and gives you insight into the labs that you could talk to your functional practitioner about or your
Nice.
medical doctor about. So it's a fully comprehensive program. And again, if that was something that anybody was interested in, just hit me up on Instagram at Andrea Maxim ND, and I can kind of point you to that direction.
I know it's not something we really talked too much about today, but I know that our health can suffer so much when we are
Mm-hmm.
feeling that burnout, and then we start to see our physical body
Yeah.
deteriorate as well, and we're like, well, this is just fabulous. So, learning how to manage that and manage your own health and take care of yourself is so valuable as well.
Yeah, well, have me on for another episode and we can
I know
talk
we
all
should.
about those like health fundamentals for sure. I'd love to break that
Yes.
down.
Yes. Oh my gosh. To all of the listeners and business owners who have joined us today, thank you so much for listening. I am so honored that you press play to spend this time with Andrea and I. And if you are someone that loves helping other people and you know someone who can use this information, maybe you have a mom who's trying to run a business, a friend who just needs a little bit of a nudge and like that she's not alone, just that reminder, right? Send this over to them. If you are thinking, wow, this content was amazing, Brooke, how can I possibly thank you? I have a way you can thank me. If you can head on over to iTunes and leave a review. I know it takes a couple of minutes. I know you hear about it from podcasters all the time. Someone asked me yesterday, why iTunes? It's just where people go to find out if a podcast is legit. So it helps me know how I can better serve you, and it helps me get some amazing guests like Andrea as well. So go to iTunes, leave your review, and before you hit submit, if you take a screenshot and email it to hello@businessstraightup.com, I have a freebie for you. Please leave those reviews so we can continue coming to you every week with this content. Thank you so much for your time, Andrea. I'm so glad we could connect today.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to all of my listeners. I want to know, what is a takeaway or an aha moment that you had in today's episode? What are you going to implement this week? Like, even if it's tiny, even if it's a little tiny thing, let me know in the community at businessstraightUp.com/community. It is time to step into that CEO role in your business so that you can design your business and not work yourself into the ground every day. What you do matters, and it's time to step into that power to impact the world, change your clients' lives for the best. And I can't wait to watch your business grow. Have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you again, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Business Straight Up. I'm so glad that you could join us today. Check out the show notes for this and all of the episodes at businessstraightuppodcast.com. And I can't wait to talk with you again. Have a great day.